codependency and narcissism. There is a way of relating on the part of the person experiencing them, where there is a needs creation attached to the dynamic of that relationship. It's just that the narcissist will use what you need from them against you, while the codependent will use what you need from them and say it is on behalf of you. So both of these polarities are toxic. Both of these paradigms are toxic, because if you are dealing with somebody who is a codependent, who is basically projecting upon somebody else that they, both in their own right, this is why I write in Earn Your Luck that they're the flip side of the same coin. They're both in their own right walking with a complex of wanting to be somebody else's be all end all, because they wanted somebody to rely on in that way for themselves, and they didn't have it. So they want to be the be all end all for somebody. I mean, my dad used to always say, I brought you into this world, I can take you out, right? Like, that is literally the manifestation of like I want to be the be all end all of you, right? And not like I ever thought he meant it, but that is a way that people could say this in a traditional sense of speaking. But in the codependent, it's like, I want, even as a super codependent young mom, like, I want to be the mother I never had. I want to be this for you, and I want you to see that that's what I'm doing. I need you to see that that's what I'm doing, because we're breaking this pattern together. Go us. Look, I need you to see that this is what we're doing. And there's so much friction in that frequency, and that codependent need to almost be validated by my children for doing what my mother never did for me, the way that I needed my mother to validate me, but she never would, is a very familiar frequency. It's a very familiar pattern, right? So when you polarize, if you have a narcissistic parent and you polarize to the side of codependency, you're going to want to be seen for what you are doing good. And sometimes you're not just going to let that be what it is. You're going to want to try to prove that you're doing good, and you're going to look for validation from people who it's not their job to validate you, like your children, to say, yeah, you're doing a good job. Like, I see what you're doing. And to even rebel against the other thing that we're trying to undo keeps us locked into it, right? So the codependent and the narcissistic paradigm are both toxic to the psyche of somebody experiencing them, especially if they're your parent or your guardian, because that is, and most likely if you're dealing with that situation, you're already being sheltered from the outside world in a way that they're telling you that they're protecting you somehow, but really they're hurting you. And in a weird way, you learn to fear everybody outside and trust these people who are actually hurting you. And don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. They have their own survival mind at heart. They both have these tendencies to create a need in somebody else, and the tendency to want to be just superior. And it's not, I don't think it's malicious necessarily in either. It's just a desire to be better than that which we had, but in the doing that, we're trying to be something more than what we actually are, instead of being what we actually are. And we can't get on the ground and have equal relationships with people, and then we're either in a codependent phase of like trying to people please everybody, which ultimately, when you're coming at it like that, you're already in a narcissistic mindset, because you're really doing what you're doing because you're trying, I say it like this and Earn Your Luck, like, to a codependent, keeping the peace is as much about keeping the peace as it is about control. Right? So let's honor that fact. Like, we want to be able to control dynamics through being good enough, right? So we bend up our image to do that, to people please. And that is disordered, right? And the opposite end of that is also disordered. So coming to center is the point, but so many of us are used to relating in this way where we are running towards something that's going to save us. Or we're running towards something that we need to save. Even if that, and don't get me wrong here, that stress response might actually put you in a state of withdrawal because you feel paralyzed when you recognize that there's actually no place to run, right? So all of a sudden your circuits are blowing and you're like, okay, well, I'm in a frequency that I'm running, but there's no place to run to that's going to actually solve whatever is going on for me vibrationally. So the push and pull of these dynamics is that we're always running toward our savior, or the belief in something that we think is going to save us, whether it's like our dream, whether it's somebody else, whether it's like the therapist or whatever. We're running toward with a frequency that like we're bashing basically into this, to the head of that thing, and they're going, I'm not here to save you, like what are you doing? Step in your own space. Or we're running towards something else that we go, oh, I have to save this thing now, so my focus is super narrowed on the thing that I have to save. And we do that not like when we're present, obviously. When we actively engage presence in our life, we're not doing that. But when we let the train track run of the default tendencies that we have, we're going to default to those two things if you're coming from a codependent narcissistic paradigm. And that's all we know. That's the only way we knew how to relate. So I just want you to see that coming to center in that space, because I work with a lot of people who the cognitive problem and paradigm in their relationship is that they have a belief that it has to be perfect, so they're always running toward an enmeshing, which enmeshment is not perfect, let me say that. Or they're going, okay, it's not working, so I'm out, right? It's the all or nothing frequency of we only see two possible ways of relating, which is we get closer now, or we separate now. And both of those frequencies are running vibration, running toward or away. And we're not actually just standing still and facing the isness of where we actually are. And that's the most uncomfortable part for us, right? Like if it's not perfect, we have to make it perfect because we were taught that we had to be perfect and we want to be perfect and we're not perfect. And being where we actually are when it doesn't look perfect and we have the time to think about the fact that it doesn't look perfect because our other needs are met, can make us get away with ourselves in a really negative space where we either go, okay, now I have to go save somebody, or I have to run towards something that's going to make this perfect for me because it's not perfect and I don't know how to make it perfect and I'm flawed and I'm wrong and I'm terrible as a human being, right? Both of those ways of relating that I have to run toward and we have to be close now, or I have to run away, they're not sustainable. The body, and for me, and you're probably a little bit more my demographic, if you're somebody who feels that frequency of flight constantly, but you're so paralyzed by the unknowing of even like where you would go, and you know that if you fought you would just get hurt more, you're going to be in a space of like, oh my, I'm completely paralyzed. And if you can move through that paralyzation, then you people please and you do it really expressively well with a smile on your face and you don't even look like you're paralyzed, right? And then all of a sudden there you are, you're an adult going, wait, how did I get here and who the hell am I? Because I have no idea. So we're always running in the direction of something or another thing. And the point that I want to make here is that it's both the same frequency. That's why I see the narcissistic codependent paradigm as the polarization of one end of a frequency versus the other end of this frequency. It's the same exact beat, just expressed in different form. It's the same rainbow, just like variations of color through the rainbow, right? One side expresses itself radically differently than this side, right? And the coming together, the vastness and the blending of that all, that is what makes wholeness, right? And I think that if you consider the rainbow point, and the way that I word it in Earn Your Luck is that if you to be on the green in that rainbow, to be in the center, that's when we can get out of this ping pong in our mind of this back and forth narcissistic codependent shit, trying to rebel against the narcissist so you become codependent, and then you like blah blah blah, you resent, and then you become like the narcissist because you never got to be a narcissist because you were always thinking about the narcissist instead of yourself, and blah 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 blah. And when we can get, if you're not of that ilk, which I'm not of that ilk, I don't like it. If I was in my physical body and never reached that paradigm, I would always be just like chilling in a chair laid back. Like, I don't like the nonsense, but I was raised on it. So it took me my whole life to realize, like, okay, when I got to green in this rainbow, when I got to the center of it, then I could drop down and move up in my embodied experience as a human being and let myself be a human instead of polarizing between these two ways of having to be in the world and relate in the world. So if you can get in the middle of that, if you can get into your body and you can recognize the ping pong, but drop it down so you're actually inside of your feet. If you can come to the center where the green is, move vertically, up or down, you come to different layers of reality that don't ever visit the narcissistic codependent frequency because they've never been there. They'd be like, that's insane. Why would you do that? Doesn't even make sense. That sounds crazy. because it is. And they wouldn't think another thing of it. And somebody on the paradigm will walk away going, is it crazy? What's crazy? Oh my God, do they think I'm crazy? Now that I'm on the other side of that and I realize, whoa, like there are normal people in the world. And that's another thing I want to say about normal in this context. Like, I work with a lot of people who go like, I just want to get to normal. I want to be normal. But I go, you're not alone in that. And it is normal to feel the way you feel based on, and it can have the experiences of what you've had based on being gaslit throughout your life. Like, it would be a disturbed person who didn't question their reality multiple times a second when they've been raised to question their reality constantly, right? So it would be somebody who was so fixed that they were unworkable, who this wouldn't be normal to. Do you understand that? Like, you feeling this way is normal given your circumstance. You're not alone in wanting to be normal, even though you're like probably resent normal people. But you are normal. This experience actually, now that I've like launched this channel and I work with multiple people, like this is a normal experience. Maybe we're the 1% of the people who experiences it. I don't know. I would probably say even more like 30%. Most people just don't have labels for it and know it. This is normal for people like us. So what's not normal is to not immediately jump to having to be closer or having to separate immediately. What's not normal is the black or white, in or out constantly that is not sustainable for the nervous system, nor the relationship, nor life in general, right? You can't make decisions when you're always running or paralyzed from the fact that you can't actually run when you need to or you think that you need to. So staying in position and getting present in the body is super duper important, because then you can move up or down in the layers of reality. Then you have new relationships and new ways of relating. But all I want to say is the same frequency of running toward the thing or running away from the thing. That's where we have to kind of rein ourselves in, wrangle ourselves up and go, no, you're going to stay right here. You're just going to be in the what isness of this now, which is the hardest thing. But you're going to be in the what isness of what is now. That running is just exhausting, and you just don't move from that place. When you don't think you have to run, you can make moves, right? That are actually rational, reasonable, and on the ground instead of like in the sky or, you know, from emotion. So if you notice yourself running towards something you think is going to save you, it is as dangerous as constantly running toward the thing that you think you have to save, because the thing that you think is going to save you is probably not. And the thing that you think that you have to save, if you're codependent and this is a part of your identity on the long term, you're going to create in it a vibration in which it actually needs to be saved, which it does not need to be saved, right? It is what it is, and it is, right? It is, and what is strong. What is doesn't need a savior. So when we go, I need to be saved, we forget who we are, and I need to save, we forget who they are, and then we're constantly running to try to avoid life that's right in front of us. So I hope you can catch yourself and rein yourself in and just feel your feet, notice your heartbeat, and notice what's actually going on for your body when you have the tendency to say, okay, this feels really uncomfortable, so I have to leave this relationship or run closer toward it to make myself comfortable, when the distance between and being with yourself in the objectivity of the distance between is what makes change happen. Okay, have a good day. Bye.